I often have a need to connect my PCs to mobile data when free hotspots are not readily available or reliable. This need will increase when I do the cross-country trip. My first experience was with Cricket when they initially had data only. It was generally okay, but Clearwire had better prices and reported to have more reliable service, which turned out to be true. But Sprint took control of Clearwire and then discontinued their service. I didn't like their transfer offers, so I went back to Cricket. By then, Cricket combined their mobile hotspot with their phone packages. I went with it. Although their coverage was limited, it generally worked for me. But AT&T purchased them and decided to resplit the hotspot data away from the phones. So they required me to buy a separate device. I disliked the idea since I only went with their phone service because of the tethering. I was using Google Voice and Skype a lot for my phone services, so I decided to go back to data only. I initially tried Straight Talk, but their data-only service was very problematic. The 4G LTE device only worked with non-LTE mode. Access to the internet was stopped whenever the device switched to 4G LTE, which was automatic. There wasn't any way to switch it away from LTE. Straight Talk even replaced the device, but the problem continued. I am guessing that there was some kind of problem with Straight Talk's third-party provider. At any rate, it was a huge fail, so I looked elsewhere. T-Mobile had the better pricing for data only. Although online reviews were mixed, all my acquaintances that had T-Mobile phones said that internet speeds were fine. So I first tried T-Mobile's prepaid data-only service. It was working well, so I switched to a postpaid service, which had a better deal. The speed was quite good for a while. It was somewhere around 300 Mbps. After a few months, it began to fluctuate widely. This was around the time when T-Mobile began Binge On, which is unlimited video for specific outlets on postpaid accounts. I was reading that other data-only users were experiencing similar problems, but my friends who had the phone said that they had no problems. T-Mobile blamed a lot of things. They even replaced the device and SIM card. The fluctuations continued with speeds as low as 200 kbps. T-Mobile even tried to sell a booster, which defeated the mobile usage purpose. I also discovered that their coverage wasn't as expansive as shown on their coverage map. I discontinued their service. It's conjecture, but I suspect that their infrastructure was not ready for the increased data usage caused by Binge On. So I suspect that speed priority was concentrated for phones with the data-only customers suffering. I switched to Verizon prepaid data only because they offered data packages good for 2 months at a time. It was a huge difference. Their consistency and coverage was far better than T-Mobile, at least the data-only service. I continued with Verizon for quite a while, but the amount of my data usage was sometimes quite costly through Verizon. I ran with it for a while, but ultimately decided that they were better as a backup due to cost. At the time, I also realized that using Google Talk and Skype exclusively for my phone and texting services had a flaw. I'm a full-time cyclist. Although I hadn't had a road accident for many years, the risk existed. I realized that I would be completely reliant on someone else calling 911 if something happened. Although the higher risk areas were more populated, that still seemed problematic to me. So I decided to get a paid phone service, but I did not want to have two separate services. I remembered that people with T-Mobile phone service were not generally having the same issues as mobile data customers. I saw that T-Mobile phone service had a tethering option, so I decided to try T-Mobile's combined service. I went with a postpaid One Plus package that supplied 10 gigabytes of high-speed tethering per month with 512 kbps after that. T-Mobile's One Plus tethering data speeds within 10 gigabytes is very different from their data-only packages. I even bought a gigabyte for my prepaid data device for comparison. The speed test results are on the screen. The results at the top are for the data-only device. The results were actually better than past usage on the day of that test. But the speed is still hugely different from the One Plus service. The tests were in the exact same location with the T-Mobile being on the same day. That seems to validate my idea that the data for the phones, including tethering, is prioritized over data-only devices. I ran the same tests on different days and locations with similar results. The One Plus service stayed in the 20s to 30s during the 10 gigabyte periods, while the data-only devices ran between 300 kbps and 5 mbps. I want to add a note about Straight Talk. I noted that I had a terrible experience with Straight Talk's data-only plan. That was several years ago. I have no desire to expense a new trial on that, but recent experiences with their combined phone data plan was different. My brother made some financial mistakes and his landline phone was going to be disconnected due to lack of payment. I decided to set up a mobile phone service for him. I wanted to go with as lower cost service as possible with enough minutes for his limited needs. I decided to try him out with Straight Talk's BYOP service since I had a spare phone. The service was somewhere around 250 minutes per 3 months for $20 every 3 months. I also add 1 gigabyte of data periodically. The data is $10 and does not expire. I included a free Google Talk as a backup. The data is only good on the phone. Several months in, the services are working fine. So the issues which I had with Straight Talk were again specific to the data-only plan or was fixed. So here are my current phone and mobile data services. My primary service is T-Mobile's One Plus plan, which includes unlimited data tethering with the first 10 gigabytes at full speed and 512 kbps if I go over 10 gigabytes within a month. The speeds have been consistent. I continue to have Google Talk since it is free. I also pay a small amount to Skype to be able to have a Skype number. If needed, I still have the Verizon prepaid hotspot device. When I need the extra high-speed data through Verizon, I get one of the levels which are good for 2 months. I have no plans to use, nor can I recommend, the T-Mobile data-only service. As shown on the screen, it continues to be quite problematic. Since I plan on a 2-year cross-country trip beginning in 3 years, I'll need decently priced and reliable main services and backups. I'll have limited income during the trip and will be in some data-challenged areas. I am hopeful with my currently active services and backups. I just hope that Sprint doesn't negatively impact T-Mobile now that they are merged. One correction. I noted that T-Mobile's data-only service was initially 300 Mbps. I intended to say 30 Mbps. That was what it was initially running at before it declined after Binge On started. I hope that this is useful to people who are shopping for plans which include tethering or hotspot data. The main takeaway is that T-Mobile data-only plans are problematic, and Straight Talk's data-only plan had been problematic in the past. So far, I am happy with T-Mobile's One Plus plan as my primary service provider, with Verizon's data-only plan as a backup. The rest of this video will continue for a minute or so to finish the background song. Have a good time.